Hey everybody, welcome to Revival Town Podcast. I'm Chuck Tate, that's Andy King.
Hey mate, we're back.
Hey, we are back. It's almost Christmas.
Oh man, I love this time of year.
Yeah.
As soon as there's a local radio station in town, Light Rock 106,
107
or something like that. Yeah. But like the week before Thanksgiving, they started Christmas music. It's on in my car, mate.
Is it?
Oh,
Okay.
I love it. Are you that fanatical about Christmas, like Christmas music wise?
I'm going to be honest, no. I'm not a big fan of Christmas music.
Really?
I mean, I enjoy it, but I'm not someone who listens to it like all of December, and maybe I should. We watch a lot of Hallmark movies.
Oh, yeah.
So Christmas is always on the TV. Our tree is up early this year.
Yeah.
Last year we were really behind. This year we jumped on it early. I'm trying to savor the season, so maybe I need to put on 107.
Yeah,
Start
you're only going to get a few weeks to listen to them.
I know. Well, you know what? Our friends, Small Town Sunday, just released a really good new Christmas song, and so does Stephen McWhirter. A couple of them. Oh, Holy Night. I don't know if you've heard.
I saw it.
Oh man! Wow.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the new one I was excited was Ed Sheeran's new one, but that's not a Christian artist.
Right.
Sorry about that. But it is coming out. He launched it to go with a Christmas animation movie from the guy who created Notting Hill and some of those funny English shows. So yeah, but there you go. That was the excitement for a new Christmas song.
Well,
but
speaking of English, I watched a pretty funny clip from English preacher J. John.
Yeah.
And in fact, I used his little story in my sermon this past weekend.
I don't know if you saw, but Russell Brand did an interview with J. John just a few weeks ago.
Oh, you told me about that. I missed it. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, J. John's a good guy. He always reminds me and my wife of Mr. Bean.
Yes! Yes! I was trying to figure it out. That's it! Like Christian Mr. Bean.
Yeah, it totally is.
He's like, oh yeah, it's a great story. I'll tell you about it later. Funny stuff.
But talking about funny stuff, you texted me the other week, said I've got a funny story, which this happens a lot. I've told many people on this podcast that most of the texts from you are, I got another story. So
I want you to be real with me. Do you have people that go, so why do you do a podcast with Chuck? I mean, why are you still doing this?
It's content. It's content. That's what it is. Okay. Yeah. Come on, tell us this one.
So I was doing a wedding a few weeks ago. Very nice. I think an upscale wedding. It was just beautiful at the Cannery in Eureka. I don't know if you've been out there, but very nice venue. And I had been a part of receptions before. I hadn't done it. It was my first wedding there.
Where my son got married.
Pardon?
Ethan got married at Cannery.
Really?
Yeah.
In the courtyard out there?
Outside.
Oh, wow. So it was beautiful. Outside, under the lights, and an evening wedding. It was like 5 p.m., and it was just getting dark. And
then they invited you.
And they invited me. And love the I've known the bride for a number of years, since she's like in 6th grade. And I've known the groom's parents since I went to high school with them, played basketball with his dad in high school. He's a local politician, his father is. He's also an anesthesiologist, and he's just good family. And their daughter and my daughter went to school together at Peoria Christian way back in the day. So we're kind of connected to both families, really.
Yeah. So
it was a special opportunity and honor to be able to officiate this wedding, and I wanted to make sure that it went perfect. And it was, I think, about 220 people. It was packed. It was completely full, not an empty chair. They had to add chairs, and everything was going perfectly until my phone rang. But what most people don't know is when my phone rings, I'm the only one who hears it, because I wear hearing aids. So phone calls stream into my hearing aids, all my ringtones, everything, it streams into my hearing aids. Did I mention my ringtone is Eye of the Tiger? And it was on full blast. So I was using my mini iPad to officiate.
Yeah.
And I had that on Do Not Disturb. I thought my phone was on Do Not Disturb, and it wasn't. And I Could not believe it. It was a spam call. And what's really bad is they called back to back.
Oh.
And my phone was in my back pocket. I should have reached back there and hit it, but I didn't want to stop. I thought, okay, if I can just get through the next 30 seconds talking, no one else hears it. Apparently the groom could hear it faintly and was wondering where the eye of the tiger was coming from during his wedding. My hearing aids, like little speakers. And so I was at this portion of the ceremony. I always kind of, it was during I had just finished reading the love chapter, 1 Corinthians 13, and this was a part of a ceremony where it's kind of the pastoral charge to the bride and groom, and I make it personal, talk about them, and then I always talk about Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and it was good. 6 times in Genesis 1, where he creates something, calls it good. When his work was complete, it was very good. Good, very good. But then chapter 2, God said something isn't good. Verse 18 says it's not good for man to be alone. And I tell the story about Adam being put to sleep, and God creates Eve from his side, takes a portion of his side, his rib, and she wakes up, and he wakes up, and she's standing there before him, a gift, right? And the first word out of his mouth is finally, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. I always say, whoa, man, whoa, man. I call her woman, for she was taken from man. And this is why Proverbs 18:22 says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and receives favor from the Lord. Man's greatest treasure is his wife, another translation says. So I always say, so today, Jacob, you stand here with your good thing. A gift from God, right? And I have that whole portion memorized. Well, my phone begins to ring, gong, 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 gong. And I'm mortified because I feel like everybody can hear it. Even though nobody can, it feels like they can.
Yeah.
And it's distracting, and now I can't hear myself talking. I have a microphone in one hand. I have the iPad in another hand, so I couldn't even get to my phone anyway. You know what I mean? I couldn't turn it off, so I just plowed through. And then they called back. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, my phone's, I thought my phone was on Do Not Disturb in that moment. And you know how you can have your phone on Do Not Disturb, but immediate family can get through and call you?
Yeah.
So I thought it was my son calling me. And in my mind, as I'm talking to the bride and groom, in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to kill Ashton. I'm going to kill him. I know it's him calling me. Well, it wasn't. It was my fault. And so what happened? So what happened was...
Yeah.
I lost my place because it was, just so distracting. Eye of the Tiger blaring, and I was going through that portion I just told you about. So when I got to Proverbs 18:22, I said, so this is why Proverbs 18:22 says, and it was gone. I couldn't remember. And all I could think about in that moment was, Chuck, you're an idiot. This is going to be a good podcast story. And I said it again. Proverbs 18:22 says, and for the life of me, it was blank. I was just so mortified. So I looked down at my iPad, and I couldn't even see it. You know what I mean? I was just like, I was just so upset with myself for doing this. And it was much worse for me than it was for everybody else. Nobody else knew my phone was ringing.
Yeah.
They thought I just lost my place.
Oh, but we would love to see the video.
Oh my gosh, I would love to see my face. So then I read it, and then I skipped. I just went right back, and I made it through the rest of the ceremony. Thank God the phone didn't ring again. But I was distracted. I was upset because I want to do a good job for them. You know what I mean? It's their wedding day, and so after the ceremony was over, I said to the groom's father, "I'm so sorry." I said my phone rang during it. Nobody else knew it was ringing in my ears. He's like, oh, I just thought you lost your place. Like, no big deal to him. But I was mortified. So at the reception, they asked me to pray over the meal. So I told the story. And then everybody's like, and they lost it. It was great. But I'll never forget it. Neither will they.
Yeah. Now, didn't it happen to you the first time that you got your hearing aids in a prayer meeting or something?
It happened while I was doing my grandma's funeral. But those were my old hearing aids. It did not stream into my hearing aids at that time. This was years ago when people were first starting to, digital music.
Yeah.
So I had my phone plugged into the sound system at the funeral home to play. They wanted to play all the music off of my phone. Well, I forgot to put it on Do Not Disturb. So during my grandma's funeral,
I think this is the one. I don't think this is the one. No,
I don't think I haven't told you this one.
No.
So I'm serious. At the funeral, over the sound system for everybody was "Eye the Tiger." I thought she was going to get out of that thing, get out of that casket. Let's go, Grandma. Let's go, Grandma. But no, the first time it ever happened, I was leading. What's wrong with me? I was leading a meeting called SOS, Survivors of Suicide.
This is the one you told me about.
And we were in a circle, and it was very somber and quiet. And it was our first meeting, and every person gathered had lost a family member to suicide. And this was when I just got my new hearing aids. So when it started ringing, it was at some people had tissues, were kind of crying. And I'm leading this gathering, and all of a sudden, and I thought everybody could hear it, but nobody could. So just imagine everybody's quiet, somebody's quiet, somebody else is talking, and then you hear me go, "Oh, I'm so sorry, sorry guys, sorry about that. I know this is I can't." And everybody just looked at me like I was bananas. And then it dawned on me, they don't hear it.
Yeah.
So then I stopped and said, okay, I've got to share this. And it turned out to be comic relief, and I shared this. And then everybody lost it, and it was cool.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Man, there's always a story.
Now, hey, the bride and groom, Jacob and Rebecca, that's the couple that I married a few weeks ago. They did a post with pictures for their wedding, and they used the music, "Eye the Tiger." Well played.
That's good.
Howders, well played.
Yeah,
but congratulations to them.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, we have got, I'm trying to think of a
Forgot
tie-in.
we have a guest on today.
Yeah, there's no tie-in really, but that's fine. But we do have a guest. Why don't you tell us a little bit about our guest?
So his name is Matt Swift Perry. He is a church planter in San Diego, launching a brand new church in 2025 called...
Wait, but I got to say something. For those that are listening or watching, you may be able to see it. But those that are listening,
so everybody,
let me explain. Let me explain. If you are listening but you can't see on the YouTube, in the bottom of the corner it said Matt Swifty Perry.
Yes,
I was so close to saying, "So are you into Taylor Swift?" And then I realized it was his name. Yeah, Swifty. I thought it just for like his kids or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think it's Swift, but in his socials it's Swifty.
Swifty. Yeah.
Because at the end he even shares his socials. That's Matt Swifty Perry.
Yeah.
And
sorry, go on.
So no, it's all good. So the name of the church that he's planting is Love Church. He's going to share the vision. He's going to share his personal story of faith, and we also found out we're connected to some of the same people.
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
Really cool story.
Crazy. So why don't you sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation with Matt.
This podcast is part of the Edify Podcast Network. Edify is a faith-inspiring app that brings together thousands of the best Christian podcasts in one place for your listening enjoyment. Cut through the noise and grow your faith by diving into the world's top Christian podcasts today. Download the Edify app for free from the App Store or Google Play, or by going to edify.app. That's edifi.app.
All right, everybody, it's time for another conversation on Revival Town Podcast. Our guest today, Matt Swift Perry, is a pastor, leadership coach, writer, and communicator. He and his wife, Brianna, are planting Love Church in San Diego in 2025. We're so excited to have him on. Matt, welcome to Revival Town.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Excited to be here with you guys.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you. I've been following you on social media for a number of years, and I'm just glad that we're able to sit down, have this conversation, find out what's going on with you, what's behind Love Church, why San Diego. But why don't we begin why don't you just share your own personal faith story?
Yeah, absolutely. I was adopted at 3 months old, so never got to know my birth parents, but adopted into a Christian home. My parents were white, so every time we go out, they'd be like, "What? You're brown? They're white. Make this make sense." Born and raised outside of Los Angeles in an area called Riverside, known as like the IE Inland Empire. Really church world known, grew up near Harvest Church where Pastor Greg Laurie
Oh, yeah.
And so grew up down the street from there. And so just grew up in church, a church kid. But there was this significant moment where being raised in church, I finally understood it. That does not mean you're a Christian. My dad was a deacon. My mom was on the prayer team at this small Southern Baptist church. You know, I treated the pews like it was my bed. Jump in the kitchen and get into all the communion snacks because I was hungry during church.
We've all been there.
I know, wanted to do the pool party at church, so got baptized. Just went through the motions of being a church kid without a relationship with Jesus. And then it wasn't until high school I understood that after a bad breakup and was so angry at God, like, I'm not going back to church. Like, this breakup happened, you know, being a high schooler. And I remember actually in San Diego, I grew up an hour and a half away. In San Diego, there was this big Christian music festival called Spirit West Coast. And this huge, like, thousands and thousands of people at. And I was like, okay, my parents are going to make me go to church, but if I can go to this Christian music festival, then I can get away from going to church and it's a win-win. So I ended up going. They let me go, drove out to San Diego, and gave my life to Jesus in San Diego at this Christian music festival.
Wow.
There was a guy named Nick Vujicic speaking, and he had no legs and no arms, and they kind of set him on this table. I was like, why is this guy so happy and joyful in God? He can't move, he can't do all these things. But I'm over here, got full access to my legs, my arms, everything, but I feel miserable. I feel stuck. I feel like this breakup ended my world. And so I was like, I need to truly give my life to Jesus because I want what he has. And so it was that day in San Diego, I gave my life to really follow Jesus. And there it's just been a journey since.
Wow. I needed that story 2 weeks ago. We just wrapped up a 4-week series going through the book of Philippians right before we started our Christmas series last week. But prior to that, and our subtitle was Defiant Joy. And I used him as an illustration, and I put a picture of him on the screen and his family and shared his testimony, some things that he's said about choosing joy. And everything that you just said is exactly how he is and how he lives. And it's really cool to hear that was influential. And you coming to Christ. Yeah, coming to Christ because of that conversation he had on the stage and God using that. Wow. Man.
Well, so, go on, Chuck.
No, I was going to say, so then take us from there. So you that's when you drove to San Diego, you went to that concert, you heard his testimony, gave your life to Christ, but you've also, fast forward to the present, you're getting ready to plant a church, which we'll get to in a little bit, but you've also served on staff at churches, and you've been in ministry now for a long time.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I was 16, 17 when all that happened. And then I was going to a Christian high school my last 2 years. So I was already in a Christian high school. A lot of my friends went to. And so from there, got asked to join the worship team, played drums at our school and our church.
Right. Andy's a drummer. Yeah, you guys have.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Well, we're you know what they call drummers, right? The guys that hang out with musicians. Sorry.
My ADHD still has me playing air drums around the house all the time. But yeah, I was doing that, and somebody said, "Hey, you should." We were playing all these Hillsong songs, and somebody's like, "You should check out this Christian college called Hillsong College in Sydney, Australia." And I did not have good grades, did not have any drive, no vision of where I wanted to go after high school. So somebody said this, and I was like, hey, man, I'm not going to get into a good college here. Let me go to Australia. So literally 4 days after I graduated high school, I moved to Sydney, went to Hillsong College for a year and a half, almost 2 years. And that's really where I feel like God called me into ministry. I loved going to my Bible classes more than the music classes for Hillsong. I loved serving in the student ministry at Hillsong, and got some opportunities to actually preach and lead in some different areas there as a 18-year-old, fresh out of California and into Sydney. And so that's really where that journey in ministry began for me.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, we've got a lot of friends that have been through Hillsong. I'm thinking of Rob Osborne, who we had on, who's now the youth pastor at Zoe Church in LA.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. I love Rob.
He is? Oh, so
what?
So
Yeah.
Rob,
Small world. That's
this-
so cool.
This is his original town, Peoria, and the church
Yeah,
that my
yeah.
dad pastored at is where he got saved at. And
Wow.
small world.
It really is. And you know what? Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Hillsong, the documentaries and things. How, obviously, it sounds like it was an incredible experience. And most people we've talked to, it was a positive experience,
And
not a negative one, right?
I've got someone that's a very close friend of mine that is at the college right now, and
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've talked to him, over the last few years, like how it's been, and and even around the globe. Just a few weeks ago in London, they did the big conference. That was like their first conference back. So it seems to, they took a bit of a bump, but I feel like God's still being glorified and the right people are in the right place. But like Chuck said to you, how was your experience with all that?
Yeah, mine was great. I think I hear all the negative side. I think for me it was positive. I had boundaries. So if they're like, can you do this? Oh, I just can't. I think when a lot of people were chasing the wrong thing, they would blame the church for burnouts. But that was a lack of boundaries. If I said no, I never got shunned. I never was treated poorly. I had a great time, as an 18-year-old kid moving away from home. 4 days
Australia.
Sydney, Australia. I had the time of my life. I still talk to friends to this day that I lived with, and like, man, it feels like a dream. That was like 14 years ago that we were there, and it's crazy. But no, God used it to just call me into ministry, and then from there, maybe things that I didn't learn. I learned so much practical of serving in the church, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Some great introductory stuff. But then from there, I said I wanted a deeper theological education. So I moved back to California and got a theology degree from California Baptist University. So people ask me, they're like, what's your denomination? I said, I'm just Baptist-costal and everything in between. Connected to so many other networks and denominations. But it was great for me to learn the heart of serving the church before I went and got a deeper theological education that can sometimes be very heady and not as practical.
Yeah. Wow.
Excellent.
So obviously that was lining you up for what you're doing now. And we were joking coming on this week in Illinois, it's been very cold. Like it hit -10 the other day.
And our church sign blew down.
Yeah.
We haven't put it on social media yet. A $19,000 sign that we put up it's a year and a half ago. It was on 3 trusses. It looked like something that would be at a
stage.
On a stage, a concert. And
his church is called Rock Church.
Rock Church, and it is rock and roll, part of it, a rock and roll. I don't know if you're familiar with Guts Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but that was what really gave us the vision for it. But anyway, like Andy said, it was so cold, and there was a windstorm.
It was a freak windstorm.
Yeah, it was
crazy.
The craziest wind I've ever experienced. In fact, I couldn't even close my door. In my car, it blew it open. My hat blew off. I grabbed it, and I couldn't even get my door closed. That's how windy it was. I had to, with all my might, pull my door closed, but it took down this 18
windy as like Chicago?
18-foot high.
It was, I think Chicago, it was windier here than Chicago that day. Normally the windy city, obviously Chicago.
Yeah, we're about 2.5 hours south.
Yeah. But what made me a little sick earlier is as I'm telling you it's -10, you're then telling us it's 72 degrees, 71 degrees in San Diego right now.
Yeah, and another confirmation that I planted a church in the wrong city. Kidding. No, when you're called,
you
you're
can
called.
afford to live. You can buy a house though in Peoria.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That
is sacrifice.
See,
you're right.
You're right.
There's trade-offs.
You've done your research. I know. There we go. So tell us a bit though about planting a church in San Diego. When you came back from Hillsong, did you go straight to San Diego? Were you in a different area of California?
So the college I went to is about an hour and a half from San Diego. It's actually the same city I grew up in. And so I served at a church plant for 5 years there. I said, hey, if I want to plant a church, I want to experience what it's like. I met this pastor in this coffee shop who planted a church and said, I'm in. Would you take on an intern? So I became the first intern of that church, was there 5 years. And then I met my wife in college the end of our senior year. So she's like, I'm going back to San Diego. This is where she's born and raised. And I said, okay, I guess I'll drive back and forth and we'll make this work. And so I would drive back and forth all the time down this freeway called the 15. You drive through Temecula, which is like the Southern California wine country, and into San Diego, and got to know the city, spent a lot of time here. And originally, I knew I wanted to plant a church when I was 18. I remember sitting at Hillsong in my dorm room, and funny enough, I was listening to Mark Driscoll, heard him talk about Acts 29 and church planting and all these things, and was like, oh, I want to plant a church like Mars Hill was exploding in Seattle. I was like, I have a heart to do that in a big California city. Don't know which one. Always thought it was LA because I lived closer to LA, would spend more time in LA. But as I was doing this drive and spending time in San Diego, it became clear to me, like, the heart breaks for this city. San Diego is a slept-on city. People don't know there's 3 million people in San Diego County. In San Diego City alone, there's 1.4 million people.
Wow.
It's the 8th largest city in America, but people don't recognize that. They don't understand how big and influential it is on the border of Mexico and one of the biggest military cities. Navy SEALs are headquartered here and all these others. So the global impact that San Diego has, people miss as well. And so developed a heart for the city, and was a youth pastor in San Diego for a few years. And then God took us to a few other places where I really say we got great training. Most recently, we spent 2.5 years, almost 3 years in the DC, Baltimore area at a church called Union Church. And what God did there was amazing. We got to launch a campus and really learn what that was like. And God took us there for a reason, and got pastored really, really well. And the church just exploded in growth. But we got to experience how me and my wife can lead together in launching a campus and pastoring people and building those systems and meeting in a high school, which was huge for us. And we had the conversation of like, hey, I think it's time for us to go back to San Diego to start a church. And then we moved back this year to start working on the church plant.
Wow. Man.
So take us through, because there's a lot of people who have been a part of church but never been a part of planting a church. Take us through how you went about that. Because I mean, me and Chuck know there's a lot of stuff involved in that. You don't just show up in a town and say,
and you're still in the midst of, you're in the midst of it, right?
Yeah, we're still in this pre-launch phase. And I think you have to die to any ideas you thought were just going to work out. I think
that'll preach right there.
We've been gone from San Diego for 5 years, 4.5, 5 years. So I was like, oh, there's going to be tons of people who they're waiting for us to come back and play this church. People are saying, we're going to be on your team. I moved back, and everybody connected to different churches, which is great. Be connected. I'm not going to pull you away. Now, if you feel called, you have a conversation with your pastor, but I'm not asking you to leave your church because there's too many people who don't know Jesus in San Diego. There's too many people in this area. Like, that's why we're called here.
Yeah.
And so, it's been a journey, it's been dying to expectations. We were on staff at one of the fastest growing churches in America. And so I think what I even had to die to is like how we launched a campus is not how we're launching a church, right? Like 1,000 people showed up our very first Sunday that we launched a campus. Like this, and
because they're already connected somehow. Right?
Yeah. And it's just a different culture, a different area. Now we're in San Diego, a not churchy city. People have a different view of church because they probably if they're Hispanic, there's a high chance they grew up in a Catholic church, and their view is very that's like, I can go to church, go to mass as a Catholic, but live a different way during the week. Or I just don't go to church at all. Or crystals and all that stuff is really big out here that people don't recognize. Or you're competing with perfect weather in the beach and all these other things, the San Diego Zoo, SeaWorld, Legoland. Like, there's just so many things to do on a weekend, and a lot of people have the money to do it.
Yeah. I can relate to having this idea that you're coming back home and you just know people are going to join your team. And the thing that I found out really quick was when my wife and I planted, we were in our 20s, never pastored a church before. And I had been in youth ministry for about 8.5 years and youth pastored 2 different churches, one in Illinois, one in Ohio for about 5 years, and then worked for a national youth ministry in Tulsa for 3.5 years, and was attending 2 different churches in Tulsa. One was Church on the Move, Willie George, now pastored by Whit George, which is a mega church that's just rocking the Tulsa area. And then I was a part of this church called Guts Church, which now is a mega church. And back then, when I began attending, there was like 500 people, but it was this rock and roll church. And that's really what gave us the vision. They were doing Sunday evening services, not Sunday morning. Now they do, but back then it was just very non-traditional. Nobody else was doing this, and that was what that drew us in. And I thought, man, this will play Peoria. And we waited for God's timing. But I said all that to say, when we moved home, we already, in our mind, we knew, okay, this group of people, they are with us. They will join our vision. And we were wrong. There were people I was 100% certain would be on our team that to this day have never even come to a service.
Wow.
26 years later. There were people I didn't think would be on our team that I didn't even plan to ask, that I just ran into at a restaurant, and who ended up serving as elders in our church for 20 years. It's just amazing how God's works. You just have to throw out all your preconceived notions and trust God, knowing, you know what? It's His vision. He's the one who's placed it in your heart, and He's going to send the right people at the right time. And you can't be discouraged when people don't get it, or maybe they're not called. I mean, God calls some people to you, some people through you. Some people are not called to be with you. He knows. We trust Him. But I'm sure you're probably experiencing some of that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's been so fun because I've been in the church world for so long. I've never worked outside of the church my entire life. Worked at Starbucks while I worked at a church or things like that to supplement income, but never had a career outside the church. So we moved back, and in my head, I'm like, oh, I've been on staff at large churches. I know people in ministry, gone to so many events, and we're going to raise money. We're trying to raise millions because San Diego's so expensive. I'll be able to go on staff and we're going to build this thing. And then you get back and it's like, man, I can't raise money to save my life. Early on, I can't find people. I had to tell my wife, I was like, I don't think I'm going on staff anytime soon. I gotta figure this out. I mean, we live in a 2-bedroom right now outside of the city and pay $4,000 a month. It's not cheap. And so I'm like, how am I gonna? We're staying in my in-laws' house in a tiny room with a 4-month-old baby. My wife, this is her high school room, and I'm like feeling like a failure because I casted this vision and was like, I can't even put food on the table. I don't have any experience outside the church. But as we know, God always opens doors. I called a friend who started a marketing company. I said, bro, I know about marketing just from working at larger churches and that stuff. Hire me. He's like, all right, Matt, I don't have any money to hire you, but you go find some businesses that we can run their marketing and I'll give you part of their contract. And then you oversee their account. I was like, bet. I went to every networking event in San Diego. I went to Chamber of Commerce after Chamber of Commerce. I said, I'm going to go find businesses, and found a couple businesses for us to run their marketing. And that God was able to use that to supplement my income for a season, for us to be able to move out and pay rent and put food on the table. And but I only worked 5 or 6 hours a week. So I had all the flexibility that it never took away from church planning. It never took away from that. But I'm meeting non-believers. I'm at a networking event talking to a Jewish guy, to a girl who's in a same-sex relationship, to a Buddhist, to all these people. And I turned hey, how about we do your marketing? And that easily led into a conversation about church and God. And, oh, we're also starting a church here. And so I've had about 5 or 6 people hit me up. Hey, when you start a church, I'm not a church person, but I want to come.
Yeah, that's good. Wow.
Yeah, and I think that can be.
I can relate to that.
I think that can be the I don't want to sound negative on the church, but that can be the problem. I mean, I've been in church work and non-profit work for the last 20 odd years. I've been involved, I'm on about full time, but I've been involved since I was a kid, right? My dad was a pastor in the UK, moved to America. I was in Australia for a time. And so I've always been in church work, but not at a full-time capacity. And when I was not in church work, some of the richest conversations with non-believers was then. I think sometimes it can be scary to be in church work 100% because the people you're really trying to meet aren't in that bubble. You know, they're outside that bubble of church world. And so that's good because that also gives you a bit of hearing the cries of the city as well, right? That's something that we talk about a lot here at Dream Center. What are the cries of the city? Well, proximity brings perspective. And so when you are close to issues within a city, issues with people, you can hear it. And because of the proximity, you can then bring solution. If you're a million miles away from something, people aren't going to listen. But if you're close to it, it's easier to say, well, I have an answer. And for you, that is definitely going to be the church, right? That's going to be part of the answer for a lot of people. What has it been like for trying to plan the balance? That's the balance of, okay, yeah, it's only 5-6 hours a week, but it's still pressure there, and keeping your vision sharp for what God's called you. Do you find that hard, or how do you balance that?
No, I don't find the balance hard because I don't think there's a balance. It's here's just what my day looks like. And I'm just blessed. My wife works from home, but she's in meetings. So I'm with now she's 1-year-old baby. I'm jumping on Zoom calls, sometimes in-person meetings. I'm out at networking events, sometimes in the evenings.
Sure.
So it's sometimes a day is going to look a little bit more marketing focused, and another day is going to look solely church planning stuff. But I equate it all to church planning because even if I was not getting paid to do marketing for some companies out here, I would still be at networking events, meeting people in the city, getting to know people, getting to know the chamber. It's exactly what you said. What are the city needs? Planting a church is not how can we come take church people from their church and build the biggest thing. It's okay, the city has needs. How can we come make Jesus famous in this city and help fulfill those needs in this city?
That's good.
Yeah, amen. Wow.
So have you been able to get you talked just earlier briefly about the pre-launch phase.
Yeah.
Can you, for those who don't know what that is, can you just open that up a bit for us?
Yeah, it's everything that you just need to get done before you actually get there. So I'm big on gotten a chance to work in a lot of great systems churches. So for me, this season has been, okay, our 501c3 is good. Our bank account is open. Our website is up and running. Video recorded to announce the church. Okay, we got all these systems kind of built in the background. So now we can move into a season where we're doing interest parties. And we're getting to know people and inviting them into maybe a worship night, maybe a serve the city opportunity, different interest gatherings at coffee shops. We're going to start running all that stuff starting in January. So this half of the year has been, let's get back into the city. Let's get familiar. Let's let my family know that they're coming first in this. Lots of family time, lots of just us just going to the beach, going to brunch, doing some preaching at churches on the weekends, which has been super helpful. But spending time with my family and just knowing, hey, when we launch this thing, Sundays are going to look a lot different. So yeah, we'll go visit other churches. I'll go preach at churches a few times each month and things like that. But it's also been like, hey, it's okay to just go to brunch this Sunday.
Sure.
It's okay for me for the first time to sit down and watch some football at 10 a.m. here on the West Coast. And it's okay to do that. And so I've given myself permission. Everybody's like, oh man, like, so are you serving at a church while you're planting? I was like, I'm preaching at churches. We have really close pastoral friends here that will spend time at their churches and things like that. But it's also given myself permission to watch football on a Sunday, to take my family to brunch on a Sunday, for us to use those Sundays before we run out of them. Not run out because Sundays off we plant, but my family's never going to have the freedom that we have now.
Sure.
And we've given ourselves permission to say yes on that.
And you also have the opportunity to visit other churches and to kind of get a feel for the area and see different styles of ministry. Because I mean, you were at Hillsong, you've served at other churches, but in the community that you're in, it gives you an idea, probably to kind of help shape how you want to do church. So why don't you tell us why the name Love Church and what's it mean?
Yeah, man, that's the hardest thing, right? Trying to come up with a name. So we're praying, and at the end of our last season at our last church, and we're praying. I'm thinking through every name I can. I'm asking. My wife is great because she just says yes or no. Like, she's like, give me the ideas and I'll just tell you yes or no. So at first I was like, okay, Ava Church. I kind of like that name. She's like, we're naming our daughter Ava. You're not calling it Ava Church, which means life. And it's a derivative of Eve. And I was like, oh man, it just sounded so cool. So I was like, the verse that kept coming to my head was faith, hope, and love. And I was like, okay, there's a lot of faith churches, a lot of hope churches. I can't think of that many love churches. And Jesus says this is the most important thing. And for me, I was like, okay, what do we want to be known as in our city? What is a non-believer going to remember? If they see a postcard or a billboard or some piece of marketing. And I was like, love, like Jesus calls us to love. I heard this quote by an atheist, and they said that I was scrolling on TikTok, and somebody said there's no hate like Christian love. And I was like, man, people outside of Christianity just think Christians are so hateful. And that's what they're known for, is the don't do this, don't do this, don't be like this. And to an unbeliever, they feel hate. And I was like, man, we need to redefine that. Like, we need to be known for our love. Like, even if they don't believe what we believe, they're like, that person was so loving because the God they serve, and everything in my life started pointing to love. Every verse I read, there's 310 verses all about love. And I'm just like, that's what we want to be known for. What an unbeliever is going to remember. It's easy. And I was like, okay, there's not any love churches near us. I think there's one in Virginia, one in Nebraska. And that was after me doing research. So I was like, okay, in the West Coast, there's not. And that's what I want to be known for, is our love for this city, our love for God, and our love for people. And so
love it. I love that.
Yeah. And it just flows into everything. And my marketing brand is like, oh, this is also so marketable and easy to brand.
It really is. That's really cool, man. We're excited for you. Looking forward to seeing how God is going to use you in Love Church. And I remember being where you're at right now in those early stages where you didn't know how it was going to be funded, but you knew God was going to fund it. And you didn't know how God was going to provide for your family, but you knew He was going to provide for your family. And I remember those several months of planning. And I know when we planted, there weren't any church planting networks back then, or at least that I was familiar with at all. We were just stepped out in faith, didn't know what we were doing. 26 years later, we still don't know what we're doing, but we're trusting God. But no, it's been good, and I can look back and see how God was faithful, and He will be faithful, and He's the one that's called you, and you know that. So first the vision, then the provision. So we believe it's coming. I can't wait to have you back on Revival Town after Love Church launches, so we can hear all that God is doing through you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been such a fun season.
So you said January is where you'll really start ramping things up. Yeah. What are some of do you have any target goal dates for next year for people because there may be people that are listening in the San Diego area that may want to get involved, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so mid-January we'll do our first interest gathering at a coffee shop, and no matter how many people show up, they're going to hear the vision, and they're just going to worship God, and they're going to hear all about what God's doing at Love Church. And we're going to run interest gatherings every single month, all the way until September. The third week of September, the 21st, is when we'll launch. So we'll do a couple preview services those first couple weeks of September, and then launch on that third Sunday of September. And yeah, we're going to be doing service projects and some fun events throughout next year before we launch, to just say, hey, San Diego, we love you. We're here to serve you.
Yeah.
And then we'll do some worship nights also throughout the city.
Brilliant.
Love it.
Well, would you lead us in a bit of prayer right now? And I know, you know, this is a big step of faith, and obviously even for individuals to join a new movement like what you're doing, there's faith involved, right? Everyone does not know if the building's going to be there in September, or where it's going to be, or where the interest group's going to be. Would you perhaps just pray for what's on your heart right now for your city and for the church?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's pray. Dear God, we just thank you. We just thank you what you're doing through Revival Town, what you're doing through churches just all over this country, God, and here in San Diego, God. We just pray specifically, God, for the people in San Diego, whatever they're dealing with, whatever love they're searching for in their life, God, that they know they can find love in you, God. The ultimate love, the love that they are searching for, God, they can find an experience in your gospel, the love that you sent Jesus on the cross to love them, God, and give your life to them. We pray for wherever somebody is listening around the country, God, that they will experience love found in you, God, in their life, God. And we just pray for more revival to happen in every single city across this nation and across this world, God, because your love expands. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Well, tell us, how do people get connected with you and the church? Give us all the things you're involved in, and the way they can connect.
Yeah, on social media, it's easy. I'm Matt Swifty Perry. And then on every social media handle, and then Love Church SD. So Love Church SD San Diego. They can visit the website, lovechurchsd.com, and all that stuff has all the information.
Brilliant.
Way cool.
Well, we're close to the end, but we always do the big three questions that may have not come up in the conversation already. And so, Chuck, do you want to start?
Sure. Let's go.
Here we go.
My first question, Andy and I, we're coming to San Diego next week. We're not really, but if we were,
he's like, wait, what?
We would like to. Actually, Andy is going to LA here real soon to be with his boys for Christmas, which would be cool. Yeah. But if we were coming to San Diego, I've been out there before. I actually met with Larry Osborne way back in the day when I was a young church planner. If we were going to come and hang, and we said, you know what, Matt, we want some authentic Mexican food.
Oh yeah.
Where are you taking us?
This little hole in the wall, we'd have to get in line at about 11 a.m., but it's called Las Cuatro Milpas, the Four Sisters. That came DJ to open this little place 20, 30 years ago. They run out of food by about 1 p.m. So they're only really open between like 10, 11, and 1 p.m. But the best Mexican food. We call them rolled tacos. You would probably call them taquitos, which are phenomenal. Their burritos, their beans, they put chorizo in them, and they make the tortillas right in front of your face and give you fresh tortillas.
Wow. Man. It's lunchtime here.
Oh, man. Woo. All right. Well, my question, I've got so many different angles here. I've been to San Diego, and you mentioned the military.
Yeah.
Have you ever come across any type of exercise that you mentioned is it the SEALs you said were there?
Yeah.
Have you ever had an encounter with the military there?
Yeah, this is a funny story. So there is an organization I'm connected with called pray.com. A phenomenal organization reaching millions of people online with the gospel. And they did a thing for pastors, people flew in, but I'm already in San Diego. And so we got to spend a couple days with the Navy SEALs, and they took a shooting. It was actually the Navy, a couple members of the Navy SEAL team that captured bin Laden.
Oh, man.
Were there. So it was really cool. But they have this organization where they teach leadership. And they'll bring in some pastors, and we got to shoot all these. That was my first time really shooting guns. I'm from LA area. We don't shoot guns. And so got to shoot, shotguns, snipers, all these different guns that you only get access to in the military grade weapons, and got to shoot those for an afternoon with Navy SEALs.
Oh, that's
wow,
cool.
that's cool. All right, my last question. You're in San Diego. You grew up in the LA area. So Rams, Chargers, who do you root for in the NFL?
Yeah, NFL. I mean, LA, I just grew up in the 90s. There was no team. The Rams were gone in St. Louis, and the Raiders were gone. And so I turned on the TV, and the team that was always playing was the Dallas Cowboys. So I became a Cowboys fan.
Yes!
Yes! Cowboys, and people all the time, I'm a diehard Dodgers fan, diehard Lakers fan. They're like, how'd you become a Cowboys fan? I was like, well, there was no teams. So that gives me proximity to choose anybody I want.
Yeah, that's how I was. I grew up in Phoenix before they had an NFL team, and it was either Cowboys or Steelers when I was a kid, and I ended up with the Cowboys.
Well, I moved to Illinois, so Bears it is. You know what I'm saying?
How do you feel about that play where they didn't call a timeout?
Okay, let's not even go there, shall we?
Well, their coach is gone.
And what other play? I mean, every game this year there's
something.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I know. And I'm still a Bears fan, even because I've been here for so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, Cowboys and Bears, they both have problems.
Oh, yeah. Being a Cowboys fan, it's toxic. It's like a toxic relationship you can never leave.
Right. Oh, man.
It's good.
That's why I choose to put my mind towards the Dodgers.
Okay, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, Matt, it has been great having you on Revival Town today. We do appreciate it, and we're praying for you, cheering you on, and especially for January when everything really starts to come together. And we pray God brings the folks that need to be with you there. And so thanks again for being on Revival Town today.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
There we go, man.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you, Matt.
It's good, isn't it?
Let's go. Love church.
You've been to San Diego before.
I've been to San Diego a couple times.
I went to San Diego. Did I ever tell you the funny story of San Diego at my honeymoon?
I'm not for sure.
Oh, man.
I kind of feel like possibly, but tell me again.
Is a while back thing. So we go on our honeymoon to LA. Well, actually, we go to San Diego, and then we went up to LA to go to Disney, Universal, and then back to San Diego. We get into San Diego, and this is back when travel agents did the work for you, right? Booking places.
Yeah.
So they had booked this place for us that was, we flew in, and we were going to be there one night, and then we were going up to LA.
Okay.
We got there and just hated this resort. It was horrible, right? For our honeymoon, we're like, no. So I sit up all night trying to find a place in San Diego for when we come back from LA, because we were going up to Disney for 2 nights and then coming back.
Okay, so you went to Disneyland for
Disneyland.
Did you see that social media post about Disneyland and Disney World this week?
No.
Disneyland has LA in it. Disney World has ORL in it for Orlando.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to know if
that
Walt
was
Disney knew that.
Yeah.
Was intentional about that. Is that interesting? But anyway, so you went to LA for your honeymoon.
So during the night, I'm on the phone trying to find a place for when we get back.
Okay.
Right?
Right. And you were playing Eye of the Tiger.
No, Eye of the Tiger.
Okay.
So I'm, and here was the hard thing that week. Clinton and Bob Dole were in town because it was a presidential election time.
Oh my goodness.
So I couldn't find anything. So I end up finding this place, right?
Okay.
We go to LA, 2 days there. We come back, And I knew we were in trouble when we had a bus to come back, right? Mm-hmm. And he didn't know where the hotel was. He's calling me up. I mean, my wife is dying laughing. He's calling me up as if I'm from San Diego. This is before phones, right? As in,
Wow. Oh,
as in,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. No one had a cell phone.
No one had a cell phone. And he is lost. And everyone on the bus that are going to other hotels, it was one of them buses where they took you to different hotels from Disney. They're all getting frustrated. I'm up front, like, trying to find this thing. We finally found this hotel, right, that I had booked on a whim, right? It was the only thing we could get. We get into the hotel room, and every 30 minutes, because it was in the harbour, and I thought, oh, harbour view, it's going to be great. Oh. Every 30 minutes, come in, number 2, boat number 2, come in, number 2. 30 minutes later, boat number 3, come in, number 3, your time to come in. Every 30 minutes,
I thought it was going to be like, oh my gosh.
So then I was up all night again, finding another hotel, which we finally ended up finding one. But it was a nightmare. It was funny. We look back at it and we laugh all the time.
That is great.
But we ended up in Old Town.
Some motorhome with some guy named Chico.
Yeah. No, we ended up, and to be honest, I got to this hotel, and I mean, it was like planes, trains, and automobiles. You know what I mean? We were there, and I'd like, listen, because they said, oh, we don't see a reservation. I was like, wait a minute. I said, we've been from San Diego to LA, back to San Diego, and they upgraded us to an executive suite. I said, this is our honeymoon. We're just wanting to be in a hotel that doesn't wake us up all the time, and they put us in the executive suite. So there we go.
Well, there you go. So, man, you know, when we went to San Diego, we ended up flying out of LAX, and I was in a gift shop, and I literally stepped on Chris Rock's foot.
You did?
Yes, I have a picture with Chris Rock. I ended up getting a picture out of it.
That's fun.
That's another story. Maybe next week's podcast.
Yeah. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Tate and his mate. You know what this means?
Yep.
So this is where I'm going to try and throw you for a loop.
Yes.
In throwing an English word, catchphrase,
rhyming Cockney slang.
Oh, he's got it. So these are words or phrases that are not used in America but are used in England.
Okay.
So are you ready?
I'm ready. Bring it.
On my way home from school every night, I had to go down a jitty.
What is it with all these words? Every night coming home from school, you had to go on the what?
Go down a jitty.
Go down a jissy?
Jitty. Jitty. Jitty.
Oh, jitty. You had to go down the... You had to go... jitty, bang, bang. No, jitty. Yeah. So every night on your way home from school...
Yeah.
You had to go down the jitty.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I think I might get you on this.
Did you walk or did you ride a bus?
You would get off the bus to go down the jitty.
You would get off the bus and go down the jitty, like after school?
Yeah, I mean, it could be before school. It could be, I mean, you could do it anytime, really.
So you had to get off the bus and then go down the jitty.
Yeah.
I don't know. You had to go down a hill?
No, that's not it. That's not it.
Oh, stairs.
No, that's not it. That's not it. I think I got you, haven't I?
You did get me. You had to go down every night after school, get off the bus, and go down the jitty. Maybe was it our playground? Was it a slide?
No.
Okay, I have no idea.
I go down a slide every night on the way home.
Well, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to go down the slide again. I'm trying to find my hotel. All right, student number 2, come in. Get down the jitty.
You don't know?
I don't know.
It's an alleyway.
An alleyway. Okay, go
like
down
between houses. There was this cut through.
So go down. I was literally thinking you're going down something. So you would just go down the jitty. Go,
yeah. So
walk down the alley.
There was this church and a graveyard, and there was like an alley that went through the graveyard around the back of these houses. And it was like a shortcut to get to the street I lived on.
Okay.
And so they called it the Jiddy.
Call it the Jitty.
Yeah, yeah. And they do it across the country. It's not like I made the word up.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
So there we go.
Yeah. So you would have to go down the Jitty and through the garage. All right. I'll stop. I'm a plonker.
Well, thank you so much for listening to Revival Town.
We're
or
so
watching.
chuffed to have you on our podcast, our podcast family.
Now, is the new merch out yet?
Yes.
Oh,
the new merch.
You want to tell us about it?
So yeah, go to Revival Town Podcast, and you can DM us.
Podcast social.
Yeah, our social, specifically Instagram, and you can order some merch.
So tell us how it works, because you haven't told me either. So
there will be some posts.
Okay, so people will be able to see it.
Yeah, you'll see it, and then if you want to order, you DM us, and you'll get a message prompted with the Venmo link, and it'll show all the stuff, and you'll get to put in your information to receive it. Now, right. Hopefully, as we round the corner going into the year, there's going to be actually a merch shop. We do have a merch shop on our website.
We're just updating everything.
But this is new stuff. This is new stuff.
This is Chuck.
Yeah.
What do you call it? 41 threads.
41 threads.
Oh, look at that. You're just a marketing genius. You are.
I don't know. If I was a marketing genius, you wouldn't have to order via DM.
Yeah.
No. But we're putting together. I'm putting together a website. It's just taking longer. So
great.
Yep.
All right. So check it out, and obviously Chuck just talked about the socials. Make sure you're following us and letting people know about us on Revival Town Podcast. On Instagram, Facebook, and
let us know, who do you want us to interview in 2025?
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah, because there have been quite a few this year that people have said, "Hey, this person would be good," or "I have a contact." We don't have contacts to everyone. You may have a contact. It doesn't mean that everyone that comes through our way we are going to interview. I'll be honest, we are pretty picky on just who comes on.
Right. But if you know Matthew McConaughey, send him our way.
Absolutely. Come on. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening or watching. Thanks, Chuck, again.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
See you next week.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Revival Town Podcast. Make sure you're following us on social media and remember to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. For more information, head on over to revivaltownpodcast.com.